Welcome to my channel. Now, the WNBA is trending right now. The WNBA is trending right now, and it's not because of the record-breaking attendance. It's not trending right now because of the commercial and the endorsement and the advertisers, putting millions upon millions of dollars behind the WNBA. The WNBA is trending because of, I never thought that I'll be talking about the WNBA, but, transgenderism. Now, the question is, like I said, I'm gonna let the rabbit out the hat. How many transgender women are actually playing in the WNBA is the question, because that's what it's getting to. That's what they're alluding to, because they already are talking and telling us in plain sight and speaking code and letting us know that transgender or born biological males are actually playing in the WNBA. Now, I'm gonna give you some receipts. I got I'm gonna do a reaction to Cheryl Reeves, the head coach of the Minnesota Lynx, Natalie Nakase, the head coach of the Golden State Valkyries, and then Caitlin Clark. She pretty much did not want to answer the question because she was asked in a press conference, and she basically pled the fifth like Dr. Fauci. Okay, now no further ado, let's just let me just show you the receipts. And let's just get into it. And then I'm going to give my opinion. And we're going to talk about it just a little bit because it is what it is. And here's Cheryl Reeves, the head coach of the Minnesota Lynx. Check this out.
As I said last week, I come from a space of inclusion. And the narrative that I think that is problematic is to suggest that number one, that transgender athletes are the biggest problem in women's sports. And I think this is what's bothersome, is that there's a faction of people in our country that are making this a massive issue. We have some issues. Number one, we need to protect trans kids. Every kid, to me, it's a human rights issue. Every kid has a right to sports, regardless of gender diverse, transgender. Every kid has the right to access.
Wow.
Now, what gets nuanced is, when you're beyond puberty, when you're in Olympic sport, when you have scholarships and that sort of thing. That's where I say that common sense people get together and you find common ground to find a way to be inclusive. The answer isn't no. It is not the case that we have, quote, biological men in girls' locker rooms. It's the way it's being phrased, the innuendo there that somehow transgender women are predators of some kind in the locker room. There's a lot of narrative that is problematic that we need to address. That is simply not what's happening. I think we can take on the issue. There are more and more transgenders in our country as years go by. There's going to come a time. I've encouraged, just years ago, I encouraged the WNBA leadership. What's our stance? What are we going to do when this occurs? Are we going to be ready? Are we going to be reactionary? And so I think it would make sense for our league to be leaders in this space. And there's again, I don't want to go so detailed. There's a lot of nuanced issues when it comes to science and hormone therapy, etc. I've chosen to educate myself about the space. I've chosen to listen to transgender families, and what I know is exclusion is not the answer. In terms of
So basically, she just let the rabbit out the hat. There's, trans or born biological men in the WNBA clearly. She's basically said, when she's, spoken to their families and, she's talking about the science of it. And then she said down the road, there's going to be more transgender females because it's an agenda. Because 40 years ago, 50 years ago, this was not a conversation and this did not exist. So we got to really pay attention of who's behind orchestrating, this thing. And this is why, we have to, push back a little bit, because like I said, all humans are not created equal. This inclusion and all of this, we thought it was for the women. We thought it was for, all sorts of things, but it comes to find out that these things were pawns to push a narrative and an agenda, because Dwayne Wade's son is a trans female. Okay. Are they setting the stage for her? Because I'm hearing she's over 6 feet right now, could palm a basketball and could dunk with heels, allegedly. So are we looking at a situation where they're grooming and creating, trans children? Why do we have to mess with the children? Before puberty, we were just doing whatever. And then, when we started, going through puberty, 12, 13, 14 years old, maybe even 10 years old, the changes start happening. But these are parents, and their environment is creating this because I'm a product of my environment. Okay. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and when it was a male chauvinistic situation, and they canceled us. It was no domestic violence in the 70s. A man has slapped the crap out of a woman, but shut up. And that was it. But now, if I got handcuffs put on me for terrorist threats. Did you tell her she couldn't? I told her she wasn't going nowhere. Turn around. I'm like, wow, okay. But let's stick to the topic at hand. This is a play, moving forward. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. I played it to its entirety. If you did not hear it, go back and listen to it in entirety, because right now, here's a disclaimer. I'm going to stop and I'm going to comment on the code words that she's using. So let's go.
My views,
and she made it clear these are her views.
Since I said last week, I come from a space of inclusion.
She comes from a space of inclusion, so that DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, has nothing to do with merit, but inclusion, and that's where the issues come from. Where the confusion come from. The inclusion, because you have so many different people and communities that want to be inclusive, then they're canceling the naturalism, or they're canceling the individuals who basically would thrive in a system of a pecking order. But somehow, some way, they didn't cancel that, and they want inclusion.
And the narrative that I think that is problematic is to suggest that, number one, that transgender athletes are the biggest problem in women's sport.
Okay, I didn't know that. So she's saying that transgender athletes are the biggest problems in women's sports. I would say yes, because there's females that play basketball, females that run track and box. And if you are supposed to be protecting females, then why would you support something that's going to basically, put them in a situation where they can't succeed competing against biological males?
I think this is what's bothersome.
Bothersome to her, because this is her opinion, and she said, in my personal opinion,
there's a faction of people in our country that are making this a massive issue. We have some issues.
Okay, she said there's people in this country making this a massive issue, so we have some issues, meaning there's some trans males playing in the WNBA. That's basically what's going on, and that's what's happening, and we're not even going to sugarcoat that. There's trans males, we don't know how many or who playing in the WNBA.
Number one, we need to protect trans kids.
Number one, we need to protect trans kids. Number one, there should not even be trans kids. If you got an Audi, listen, little kiddies. If you have an Audi, you're a boy. If you have an innie, you're a girl. We should not even be making trans kids, because parents, make the decision of dressing their kids. Parents make the decisions of their children. That's what parents do. So parents they're basically making trans human beings. Okay. That's not natural. Okay. Why are we doing this? It's the parents, because we all are products of our environment, period.
Every kid, to me, it's a human rights issue.
She said it's a human rights issue when Black America got all these problems. Let me stick to the topic at hand to get out of my feelings.
Every kid has a right to sports, regardless of.
Every kid does have a right to sports, but there's male sports and there's female sports. Okay, if you're a girl, you play girl sports. If you're a female, you play male sports. Okay, or you play on the female team or you play on the male team. Gender diverse and all of this. And I guarantee you, if you ask her to define a woman, she would do a Ketanji Brown Jackson and, I'm not a biologist. I mean, let's go.
Every kid has the right to access.
Every kid does have a right to access, but why would you punish the little girls? Because born males have a physical advantage over girls. Factual. All men are not created equal. So if a man's competing with a female, come on now.
Now, what gets nuanced is, when you're beyond puberty, when you're an Olympic sport, when you have scholarships, that sort of thing. That's where I say that common sense people get together and you find common ground.
So she's admitting that there is a problem, but she's saying common sense people need to find some common ground, meaning it has not been addressed yet. So do we shut it down before it gets out of hand, or do we sell our souls and sell our birthrights to individuals who can't compete with their gender, so they'll decide to slide over to the other side and be the best over there?
To find a way to be inclusive? The answer isn't no.
We don't have to find a way to be inclusive. And she said the answer is not no.
It is not the case that we have, quote, biological men in girls' locker rooms.
You do have biological men in women's locker rooms. You just said that.
The way it's being phrased, the innuendo there that somehow transgender women are predators of some.
Transgender women are predators. So just imagine if you are a stud like Brittany Griner and you're in a locker room, you're looking at look at all these women. You know, I'm not saying that they're predators, but man, let me go in the women's locker room. I will give me the popcorn. I'm going to be look, whoa, look at that. Whoa, yeah. But apparently in the WNBA, I'm about to say, you know, if I'm in the women's locker room, like, wait a minute, she got to, let me be quiet.
There's a lot of narrative that is problematic that we need to address. That is simply not what's happening. I think we can take on the issue.
It's not what's happening, but if you are a stud female and you in a woman's locker room, man, that's beautiful, man. I envy that. any born biological male would envy that.
More and more transgenders in our country.
She said there's going to be more and more transgenders in our country because it's an indoctrination and it's an agenda to make them. Okay, because when I was coming up, they made men. They made hard boys. We couldn't even cry. 2 years old, you get a spanking. But stop all that crying before I give you something to cry about. We 2 years old. They made us like this. And then they want to cancel us, but we back, baby. We back. Okay, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. We back. We back on deck. So men, it's time to mount up.
Years go by. There's going to come a time. I've encouraged, it's years ago, I encouraged the WNBA leadership. What's our stance? What are we going to do when this occurs? Are we going to be ready? Are we going to be reactionary? And so
She says the WNBA going to be ready for this influx of biological males playing female sports, meaning men with penises playing girls with penises playing in the WNBA or whatever their pronoun is, but they got a penis playing in the WNBA. And you don't have to cut it off because Caitlyn Jenner still has hers. And it's crazy that Caitlyn Jenner and Caitlyn Clark, she's going to be coming up next. But, hey, it is what it is.
it would make sense for us to be leaders in this space. And there's again, I don't want to go so detailed. There's a lot of nuanced issues when it comes to science and hormone therapy, et cetera.
Science and hormone therapies. Really? That's what we're doing?
I've chosen to educate myself about the space. I've chosen to listen to transgender families.
She's been listening to transgender families, so meaning they're building their coalition. First, it was the gay community. Then they put a women's lib, and then the L, the G, the T, the Q, the A, the I, the plus. So the trans is a community, and they're going to basically they are en route to take over women's sports and basically do not protect women, okay, and push them out of their jobs. And the born biological males are going to take over because maybe they want Duncan in the WNBA. I don't know.
What I know is solutions not the answer. In terms of
And that's crazy. That's crazy. Put your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like, hit that notification, hit the subscription, and we're going to have this conversation. And then here is the head coach for the Golden State Valkyries, Natalie Nakase. Here's her reaction to the same question.
How I'm seeing it is, if I could answer with, like, for me, sports is about belonging. It's about inclusivity. It's about allowing everyone to be their authentic self. I'm big on that just because I have been criticized for my height, for my ethnicity. I've been in those "you shouldn't belong here" many times.
Wow.
And for me, I don't want that space, especially Golden State, to ever feel like that. So I'm all about women, little girls deserving to play, and that includes trans women.
Woo!
So I'm all about inclusivity. How I'm seeing it.
Wow, man. Wow. And this is a head coach. So as a black man, okay, now I can only defend what I am. Okay, I'm trying to, make black men trend again. I'm trying to get black men to lead again, trying to get the alpha male to get from behind this woman and stop being scared, that we just going to have to, be who God made us. Because clearly, they're defending who they are. But for her, to go on record is showing you something. Because like I said, I can only defend who I am. Okay, so if you're defending trans, Cheryl Reeves and Natalie Nakase or Nakase. Okay. Now, the question's fair. Is like, are you guys trans men? It's a fair question. Okay, it's not out. It's not out the equation. That's a fair question. Are you guys trans or born biological males? That's the question, because you are going to bat for trans when you should be protecting women in women's sports.
If I could answer with, like, for me, sports is about belonging. It's about inclusivity. It's about allowing everyone to be their authentic self. I'm big on that just because I have been criticized for my height.
Okay, so now she's looking at it from her personal perspective. Oh, my height, and what's your height got to do with anything?
For my ethnicity.
Your ethnicity, what that got to do with anything?
I've been in those, you shouldn't belong here.
To who? Okay, so now.
Many times, and for me, I don't want that space, especially Golden State, to ever feel like that.
So since you feel like that, just open the doors for biological men to dominate women's sports. I mean, we all have been through some type of situation where we feel, okay, our feelings are get hurt, and sometimes we have to accept the fact, accept it, because coming up, when I was coming up, they had maybe 23, 25 uniforms. Okay, if you didn't get a uniform, you literally got cut. You didn't make the team, And then now everybody gets a participation trophy. Let's make it inclusive for everyone. We saw that when they took the competition aspect out of youth sports, for the millennials back in the 2000s. They took the competition aspect out of it. When I played Pee Wee baseball, everybody didn't get a bat. If you struck out, if you couldn't hit, if you couldn't catch, you couldn't play. But now, I took my son out of a league at Westchester Park because the whole team get to hit, off the tee, and then they go outside to the outfield. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not how this game's supposed to go. They're taking the competition factor out. Why? Because they wanted to, to bridge the gap and get the untalented, and the ones that couldn't make it to be a part of the ones that, had the talent, and then punish the ones with the talent because you want to be exclusive and you want everybody to be, involved. That's not how it works. That's not competition. They took away the competition edge. But like I said, I have to protect what I have to protect. I was raised at a time where this did not exist. I was raised when competition was high. We competed, from at a very, very young age at a high level. So now if you destroy the competition aspect, so now you can get the weaker individuals involved, and now you can just, the ones that can't make the squad. So now you could just say, go play with the girls and go dominate the girl sports, because I guarantee you there will not be a transgender athlete that make the WNBA if they're not good. These trans WNBA players is better than everybody in the league. And I'll prove that to you in 2 minutes.
So I'm all about women, little girls deserving to play.
Women, little girls deserving to play what? Girl sports? I mean, come on. What are we doing?
And that includes trans women.
Wow. So Dwayne Wade's son. This is what this is literally for Dwayne Wade's son. Like I said before, Dwayne Wade's son, I believe, is not his trans son, is Zyrie or whatever her name is palming the basketball, dunking with heels on right now. So this is what the WNBA is turning to, because if you are a girl and you are the same age as Dwayne Wade's born biological male son, the competition factor, you're going to get destroyed. And now don't get in the boxing ring. We're not even going to go that, because that born biological male Olympian, beat the mess out of that female. That's sad. That was abuse. But this is crazy. So with that being said, they asked Caitlin Clark her reaction. And Caitlin Clark is basically being exposed as cold busted. Now, she got an Adam's apple, y'all, and the look on her face right now is basically saying like, wow, why are we having this conversation? Because you guys are exposing me for who I am. Check this out.
Discussion we really have in our locker room. I think it's for leagues and the governing bodies to work with their athletes to find solutions, but our focus is on basketball, and that's what we talk about and how we can get wins, and obviously we didn't do that tonight, so we need to find an area to improve in that way.
Do you have any, reaction to the...
I just answered for you. It's not related.
Man. Well, they asked Caitlin Clark about transgenderism and a response from her teammate, who basically said that women need to protect women's sports. She didn't like that. But then she agrees with Cheryl Reeves and the head coach for the Minnesota Lynx, and Natalie Nakase, the head coach for the Golden State Valkyries. But she's one of those trans athletes that they're talking about allegedly. I have no clue. I don't know. I didn't make up these topics. This is why I had to show you the videos, because if I were to just go out and just wing it, you guys would be saying, you don't know what you're talking about. But this is coming out of their mouths. Okay. Now, is Caitlin Clark the transgender or born biological male that they're talking about? Or if she's one of many, because it seems like the best ones in the WNBA, are suspect. Okay. Now, when I was coming up, girls was running around thick with breasts and all that. Now, they chest, I got a bigger pecs than them. I mean, this is crazy, but let's see what she got to say, and I'm going to comment on it. You just heard it. Okay. But I'm going to go ahead and comment on it. Let's go.
Discussion they really have in our locker room.
She says, not a discussion we have in the locker room about transgender females. So if y'all don't talk about it, I mean, it's a thing, but we don't talk about it, though.
I think it's for leagues and the governing bodies to
It's for the leagues and the governing bodies to
work with their athletes to find
penises. Is that what she said?
solutions, but our focus is
To find solutions. My bad.
on basketball, and that's what we talk about and how we can get wins, and obviously we didn't do that tonight, so need to find an area to improve.
And I'm looking at, is that just a shadow or is that an Adam's apple? Man, I seen that thing. Look at it, man. Look at that. Right there. That's the Adam's apple right there, yo. Yeah. And then the look that she had on her face, she's like, man, she seems cold busted.
Any reaction to the?
I just answered for you.
She blew that man off. It's like, do you have any reaction to? I just answered the question. Look at that Adam's apple, man. It is what it is. And then, they don't even play with us. They put it right in our face. They don't even play with us. They put it right in our face. And here's Brittany Griner right now being congratulated on being a mom. And watch what she say. Watch this.
One other job that you're
Watch
about
this.
to get into that is really hard and really scary. You're about to be a mom. How is that feeling? Pops. Oh, let me get it together. About to be- How is that?
Wait.
That feeling? Pops.
Pop.
Oh, let me get it together. About to be a pops.
Yeah.
Please tell me how exciting that is. For
Yeah,
you. What you're
pops.
looking forward to
Yeah.
most.
I'm super excited.
I'm super excited.
I
I'm
guess I just dropped it this year.
going to leave that right there. Y'all have a good day.